And welcome. Hope everybody had a nice, restful holiday season and you're back and ready to jump into school and NCL. Thank you, everybody, for participating in showing up today for today's NCL Coaches Call. Next slide. All right, so we have the agenda. This is what we're going to go over today. My welcome, which I'm in the process of doing. We'll talk about the new season, review of season schedule and the registration process. And we'll call out to share NCL player stories. The coaches committee. So again, we're going to split this call up into two pieces. One with us just kind of talking at you, giving you information. And then the second part is a group discussion. Since this is a coaches call, we want to get input from you. And you're the ones that are here to help grow and make NCL as best as possible. So we're going to, in this case, get some input from you. So our discussion topic for today is review of the NCL experienced player policy. How can we maintain fair ranking comparisons between players with different levels of industry experience? So I'll go over that again when we get to that point of today's meeting, but just that's the overview of what we're going to discuss today. Next slide. All right, so again, I'm David Zajcik. I am the commissioner of the NCL. Also on the call with us is Franz, the CEO of Skyline. There he is. And Emily, who's our community engagement manager from Skyline. Emily, say hi.
Hi, everybody. So happy you're here with us.
Great, thanks. All right, so Franz, go ahead and take it away. Get us up to speed on the new season and all of the important dates.
All right, thanks, David. So we have the season schedule out right now. The key dates to remember, definitely the first one to remember, is that registration is going to open on January 30th. So that is about a week and a half from today. The rest of the season schedule is pretty in line with what we had for last spring. So gym, as always, will be open from the start of registration all the way about a month actually past the end of the team game. We've got the practice game here March 20th. So that is kind of close to the end of March. Individual game is March 31st to April 2nd. And then team game is April 14th to April 16th. Easter will be in the middle of the two games. So there should not be a conflict there. A quick reminder, even if you are a returning coach, please remember to complete the free coach registration for this season, because if you don't complete the free coach registration for this season, you won't be able to have access to the gym and the challenges that your students are going through. So just complete that registration. It's free for coaches. It'll be easy for you to get that access. And then I also will have another call out here for team setup. So for those of you who are not aware, you don't have to figure out exactly what the students' teams are going to be up front. You can actually have all the students sign up individually at the beginning, get started, start practicing, go through the individual game. We know a lot of faculty members will actually help choose teams based on performance in the practice or in the individual game. So don't worry about setting up teams right away. I would highly recommend just have any students who are interested in participating in NCL, just sign up at the beginning of registration so they have the full amount of time to prepare. And then whenever you're ready, you can set up your team. And that can happen at any point up until the night before the team game starts. So plenty of time to do it, but definitely don't forget, because once that deadline has passed, you won't be able to switch teams. We need to make sure we maintain fairness. Once those rosters are in, that's going to be what the rosters are for the team game. And so anyone who misses that deadline will get put on a team of one and will have to participate solo rather than in their team. A quick reminder as well for getting people registered. As a faculty member, you can register completely for free using the faculty coach registration. For getting your students registered, there are 3 avenues. One avenue is to have your students pay for themselves. If they just go and click on the normal student registration, they'll be able to put in a credit card and pay for their own registration. If you are going to be paying on behalf of your students, you have the ability to pay from the online portal with a credit card during your coach registration. Or after you complete your coach registration, if you go back to the coach registration page, you'll have the option to purchase additional codes for your students. And so don't worry if you don't have like an exact number for how many students will be participating. You can actually say, maybe I have 20 right now, and I think there might be a couple more stragglers that might come in later. You can get the 20 in right away. And then whenever those stragglers get sorted out, you can go in and put in a second request, a second order afterwards. And the third path, if you don't have the ability to use your own credit card, you can purchase with your finance department, whether that be sending a check or going through some sort of formal purchase order process. If you go to the registration website and you scroll down, there is a bulk registration button there. If you click on that, it'll take you to the form where you can put in your request, and we should be able to get you sorted pretty quickly. The paperwork really comes down to however long it takes for the finance department to approve everything. If you have basically made a prepayment towards your NCL registration at the beginning of registration on the 30th, you will be able to use your existing credits in basically this step number 2. So instead of having to go to the coach registration and putting in your credit card information, you will be able to see a balance for how much you've already preloaded into your account, and then you can purchase codes against that balance. So that is an option for those of you who have already preloaded some funds. And the last thing I want to cover as a refresher, if you are not seeing your students in your dashboard, it means one of 2 things. It means either they have not registered or they have not paired you as their coach. So we need to make sure that there is consent, because we're going to be sharing the student information, the performance information on the coach dashboard. So you will not automatically get that information unless we have affirmative consent that the students is willing to share the information. That can be done in 2 ways. One way is that if you've purchased the codes for them, when they redeem those codes, that is the one way of getting consent, and they'll automatically show up here in your dashboard when they register. The second way, if they're purchasing their own codes, you will need to give them your coach observation link. And in the coach dashboard on the NCL registration page, there's a option in the left sidebar for coach observation. Click on that. It has the instructions and the link that you can send to your students that will give that consent there. Like I said, if there's for any reason why you're not seeing a student on your dashboard, it's one of these 2 reasons. It's either because they have not registered yet, or they have not given consent to confirm you as their coach. And with that, I'll pass it back to David, and I'm gonna answer a couple of quick questions from the chat actually before I do that.
Yeah.
So we've got William Blake asking where the new coach registration is. If you go to the NCL website, there will at the beginning of registration on January 30th, there will be a button on the main homepage, and you can click there, and it'll take you to the main registration page where you get to choose between student and faculty. Got another question for prepayments. Is it tied to a term or year? So the way the NCL registration codes work, when we create the code is only good for that season of NCL. So when we create a spring code, it's only good for the spring. You can't use it in the fall. If you're making a prepayment, the prepayment credits carry on indefinitely. So if you put in, if you prepay for, let's just say you prepay for 100 codes, and in the spring, you only say, I need 50. Well, the 50 codes that you didn't request against your prepayment, those funds are still available for future seasons. So if you make a prepayment, none of that expires, but once the code has been issued, those codes are only good for that season. And Chip is asking, can you attach to a second coach? The answer is yes, but you will need to open a support ticket. So the process is that the first coach should register, well, actually have all of the coaches register. And then after all of the coaches have registered, the primary coach should open a support ticket with us and say that I would like to give these coaches access as well. And then on our end, we will just hook them all up together so that you'll be able to all see the same students. All right, I'll pass it back to you, David.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Franz. And thank you for the questions too. So yeah, keep them coming. We'll be monitoring chat in case you do have questions along the way. A quick reminder, so this slide is talking about some research, and we had a talk about this a couple months ago, but they are circling back. So they are desperately asking for us to go in and fill out a form, and the form is going to give them some answers about this research question. So what they're looking at is research. Oh, there it is. Thank you. About the research study. So the purpose is aimed at understanding the level of access to cybersecurity educational resources for teachers, faculty, mentors, public and private across the US. I think that's probably all of us. And the study is particularly interested in analyzing the disparities amongst rural and Title I student participation in cybersecurity competitions. So if that's you, please definitely answer this. Even if it's not you, please go through and spend a couple minutes going through. I think it is a pretty quick survey answering those questions. And then the last bullet point here is the result of the study in general will statistically help understand the various factors that contribute to an inequitable access to cybersecurity and help increase participation amongst middle and high school populations, which is something we all want. So we do want to learn about this issue and address it. And the best way to do that is to go about getting you guys to answer the survey. So here's more particulars about the survey specifically. Again, the title, Towards an Equitable Access to Cybersecurity Education in the US, 22 questions. What they're looking for is demographic information, participation of Title I schools, engagement in cybersecurity competitions, other STEM initiatives, exposure of elementary, middle, and high school in cybersecurity, and finally, challenges like the NCL. As you can see in the chat, it's popped up right now, the link to the survey. So we don't have to go backwards and give you that QR code. You can actually go into chat right now. Even if you're not going to do it right now, please open up chat, click on that link, and maybe have that tab open for later on in the day. I know people like to keep tabs open for their to-dos, so please go ahead and either click on the link in chat, or you can use your phone to capture this QR code. Both of those will take you to the survey. And as I mentioned, it's only 22 questions long, so not super long, but super important information. And the reason why we're spending a little bit of time on this is because you are the ones. You're the ones that are specific to who we want information from, or actually in this case, the researchers that are conducting the study. You are the ideal candidate to fill out that form. So please do so. Also share the survey with other teachers or mentors or administrators. Tell them, after you've done it, that it only takes a few minutes, but it really is important information to gather. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Franz.
David, I'll add one of the specific asks for the survey is if you could share it with any colleagues that you might have at other schools who do not currently have a cybersecurity program, because one of the big challenges with research in this space, cybersecurity education, is a lack of data points from schools who do not have active programs, and what are the challenges they're facing to get a program to begin with. So, would love to have people, especially, I think this is focused on K-12, if you have a program to complete the survey, but if you have colleagues at other schools, that is key information that is currently being missed from a lot of the data collection right now. And this really goes far to advance making cybersecurity accessible to everyone.
Good. Thanks for adding that. Yeah, good point. Yeah, because they probably aren't on the call if they don't have a cybersecurity program. So yeah, if you know of anybody that does not, that is super important information as well. Okay. Next, Emily, you want to take it away from here about our experience stories?
Absolutely. Thanks, David. Hi, everybody. Sure. Hopefully you have been receiving the decrypted post in your inbox, and you have started to see us sharing some really awesome stories about our NCL community members. And I want to put a call out to everyone on this call. If you know students that we should be connecting with, if you'd like to have a one-on-one chat with me to share what you're doing for maybe a club or a class, I'd love to connect with you. We are really hitting hard on storytelling. We want to bring authenticity to what we're doing in the NCL community. And the best way to do that is truly through the eyes of our coaches and students. We want to be able to utilize this information on a broad scale. That could be from, in the newsletter, our social media post, our marketing materials, as well as conversations that we're having with potential sponsors and partners. The realistic view of what it's like to be a part of the NCL is incredibly important to us internally, but we also want to be able to represent you all with the amazing stories and the impact that you have going on personally. My email address, I thought I put on the slide, but it kind of disappeared. It's very easy. It's emily@cyberskyline.com. You also can connect with me on our Discord channel. We do have a Discord channel. It started in November, and we are adding channels that we believe are going to be quite impactful and resourceful for our coaches and our students. We do have a specific Coaches Corner channel of Discord that we definitely encourage you to join. And I'm on there, so connect with me. I'd love to meet with you or your students. I could do a virtual meeting. I've done a few of those with some classes across the US, and I'd just love to hear from you. And if you happen to know of somebody who's not on this call, another coach or maybe an assistant coach or somebody that you work with, that would be a fantastic person for me to connect with, please go ahead and pass my information on to them. Or you can also just make a warm introduction. That would be fantastic. And also keep your students in mind. They're doing fantastic stuff. They are really the bread and butter. They are the heartbeat of what we're doing. We want to make sure that we're highlighting them in ways that just show how proud we are of their great work. So if you have anyone that you'd like to connect me with, that would be great. And also, I'd really just like to get to know you all more. In this space, we're working very closely, and I want to make sure that we're bringing the best programming and initiatives to not only your students, but also the best way that we can support you as coaches. So let us know how we can impact you in positive ways. And I look forward to speaking to many of you very soon. Thanks, David.
Sure, thanks. I love that picture of Doc, by the way. I was going to say he's not on the call, but that's such a great picture.
He's a lot of
mascot.
fun. Yeah.
That definitely is him. That captures Doc very well. So a couple things. Emily did mention Discord, and there is a link now in chat to join the NCL Discord server. We are going to spend some time in an upcoming coaches committee call to talk about Discord. We're interested in figuring out how to get more people involved, meaning us, the coaches. And with that, we're going to start brainstorming on what can we do, what conversations can we have that are outside of this coaches committee that would make the most sense to have over Discord. So we're going to talk about that in an upcoming coaches committee meeting. If you do have ideas right now and you want to share them, go ahead and put them in the chat. Then that will be a discussion item for a future coaches committee call. One thing I do want to mention right now, that if you do have and you are using Discord at your school, you can link the NCL announcements to your school's Discord server. So that's something that I've done. I've linked the NCL announcements in Discord to my security club announcements. So it's great because whenever NCL does an announcement, it goes directly to my students. So I don't have to do that whole pass it along thing. So that is a pretty nice feature of Discord. Okay, quick question. Are there scholarships for students from minority serving institutions available for those participating in the competition? Franz, Emily, one of you guys want to take that question before we move into discussion?
Yes, we definitely do have our HBCU scholarships. So when registration opens on January 30th, that will also go live, and you'll be able to get there on the front page of our website. I'm actually going to grab the link as well. It won't be up and running yet because registration is not open yet, but you can certainly go to this page and it will tell you the steps so your students can get an HBCU scholarship that will apply for the competition registration.
And do you remember about how many we had last time? Scholarships that we gave out?
I don't know the number. I wonder if Franz, you might be.
Several.
I have the number. So
Okay.
last season, there's supposed to be 107 free registrations available for the HBCU program, and we oversubscribed to it. I think we got like about 130 or so, but we still covered, even though we went over the above the limit for that. But there will be an email that goes out once that is open to all HBCU coaches, and then we historically we've had the One in Tech scholarship, which is, I don't know if the person asking this question was asking about like the free registration or the actual scholarship opportunities, but we're not ready to make any announcements about the full scholarship that we had with One in Tech at this moment. There'll be an announcement that will come later.
Okay, yeah, so two-part answer for sure is one, yes, they can apply for free NCL registration. And part two, coming soon, an announcement about scholarships. All right, another question came in from Bill about how about rural school districts? I'm not familiar with anything that we're doing for rural school districts specifically. Franz, did you want to address that question too?
For rural school districts, my recommendation, if just complete the contact form on the website and submit kind of like your financial need request. There's no formal program for that, so that'll get handled on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, and then another one came in about in the future, could we have scholarships or opportunities for Hispanic serving institutions as well?
Yeah, so the scholarship opportunities will be open to HSIs as well. More information to come later, basically.
Okay, so the answer is yes, we do. It does cover that as well. And great, thank you, Franz, for putting that link in there, the student flyer. Cool. Okay. Yeah, great. So more questions coming in before we move into discussion. Great. Will there be a video or training for each of the 9 NCL categories for students? This is one for you for sure, Franz.
That will be in the gym. So yeah, we've been making more and more updates to the NCL gym. We've now included video guides and written guides for the challenges within there. So once registration opens, all that information will come out in an email campaign. And when the students register, they'll be able to access the gym and see those videos too.
Great. Yeah, great. That, and again, that is an amazing resource, the gym, because it does allow students to go in and practice the NCL so they can get a feel for what, kind of the look and feel of the game is. Plus, you can use it, for labs. So you can have students go through and have them guided through how to solve the challenges. So when a student is new to the NCL, this is perfect for them to really have, good hand-holding experience in terms of here are the challenges and here's how to solve some of the challenges. And as Franz has mentioned, we have more and more videos included in that. So we used to have PDFs, as walkthroughs, and now Franz has created videos to demonstrate how to solve some of those challenges. Okay, so we wanted to move into discussion time. So this is where we want to see if anyone does. We're encouraging everybody to stay on the call. So this isn't a call, a please leave type of thing. This is a, if you do need to leave and because of a conflict or any other reason, now would be the time to drop off of the call. If you do have time, this is really important for us and hopefully for you as well, because this is when you get to talk to fellow coaches. And also this is when we're looking for direct feedback from you. So this is something we introduced over the last few months, this discussion section. If you're new to the call, what's going to happen is we're going to create a bunch of breakout rooms, and we're going to randomly assign you guys to a breakout room. And when you're in that breakout room, you're going to have a discussion topic. And like I said, today's discussion topic for you is to review of the NCL experienced player policy. So a little background on this, just to give you guys an idea of why this is a topic for today. This came up from students. So students, players in the previous NCL in the fall season had questions about experienced players. And as most of you maybe know, what we implemented last year is we had a cutoff for experience for people to show up on the leaderboard. So what exactly do I mean by that? So if a player had more than 5 years of experience, meaning experience in the cybersecurity field, we would call them an experienced player, and they would not show up on the leaderboard. And the reason for doing that was, one, well, we came to you guys in our last in our coaches call a few months ago and kind of asked, hey, what should we do here? Because this, again, that was a concern also posed by several players prior to the last season. So out of that discussion from the coaches call last time, that's where we came up with the whole 5 years of cybersecurity work meant that they were an experienced player, and we no longer included them on the leaderboard. And one reason for that was because we wanted to really make the NCL and the leaderboard more for new players. And that's really the whole idea behind the NCL, is to encourage new people, new students to the industry to practice their skills. So that's the idea behind the NCL. What is an experienced player leaderboard? Just saw that pop up. So that is another idea of what we possibly will do. So right now we have just one leaderboard. And if someone was an experienced player, they didn't show up on any leaderboard at all. But what we're talking about doing and proposing this time around, and also looking for feedback, is having a second leaderboard only for experienced players. So what we want to do, again, going back to our topic, is how can we maintain fair ranking comparisons between players with different levels of industry experience? So that's the general topic. So what we're doing is we're coming again to you guys, our coaches, to help us come up with some definitions. So the first bullet point is, how many years makes you count as experienced? Okay, so again, think of this when we're defining this. This means that an experienced player, meaning having experience in the industry, won't show up on the main leaderboard. So how many years counts as experienced? The second question for you guys to discuss in this breakout rooms is, what counts as experience? So internships, apprenticeships, part-time work. What we had done before was we were primarily focusing on full-time work. So Does other things count as experience? And then the final thing is what fields should count as experience. So what we had previously in the last season is anyone that had, again, 5 years of specifically cybersecurity experience in industry, we counted as experienced and they didn't show up on the leaderboard. But we're now kind of going back to that question again, and again, opening this up to you guys to get some feedback is, should other things be counted as experienced, such as computer science or IT? Should these people, in terms of people that have maybe, years of experience in computer science, should they be placed on the experienced leaderboard rather than the main leaderboard? And again, going back to the whole reason why we're doing this is maintaining fair play. And that fair play, again, is specifically for people that are new to the industry. So new to cybersecurity, that's what the NCL is for. I'm seeing some items come in over on chat, which is great, but I'm going to have you guys save those for your breakout rooms because I don't want to be the one just doing the talking here. I'm going to want you guys to have these discussions internally. And the first thing that we're going to do is try and find some room leaders. So if you're interested in being a room leader, meaning kind of helping lead the discussion and also making sure that notes are also being taken, please put your name in the chat. And it looks like we need 7 room leaders so we can put people into breakout rooms. So hopefully we'll get 7 people. Good, Chip's in there. Thanks, Chip. Matt said sure. It's 2.
I'll also add that
like
we had last season, we are offering Starbucks gift cards to anyone who would like to be a room leader and guide the conversation and take notes. So there's some free coffee in it for you.
Some free caffeine for your efforts. All right, anybody else? Problem? Okay, good. So we got John, Chris, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, Chris will take you. Thank you.
This is probably a good time to say, just in case, if anyone has to hop off, graciously leave us behind. So that way we can make sure we don't need extra room leaders. And if you want to hop off, you can hop off. Hopefully you can stay with us. But this is a good time to do it because once we put you in rooms, then we don't have to keep moving people around.
Okay. Well, I think since we have a few, we might have to do some nominating once people get into the breakout rooms. So what we want you to do before you hop into a breakout room is if you scroll up in chat, I know there's a lot in chat that came by already.
I'll pop
please
it in
click
again.
on, oh great, thank you. At the very bottom now of chat is the link to the Google shared folder. And within that shared folder, we're going to have you guys use Google Docs to take notes. And great, thank you, Beverly. We got another, and Krista. Great. It looks like we're now very close to 7. Great. All right. So right now, click on that link to the Google Doc, and you will then be able to see the Google Drive. And within that, we'll have, like I said, the Google Docs that you will be working on in a group. So once you get into your group, you'll see the right Google Doc to work on once you know what breakout room you're in. So in just a second, we'll put you into breakout rooms, again, randomly. And then what we'll do after that is we'll make sure the volunteers are put one into each breakout room. So if you're a volunteer, we may need to move you around to make sure that you are placed across the breakout rooms. So we're going to take about 20 minutes right now to go into breakout rooms and have this discussion, and we'll come back at about 15 minutes now, about 20 minutes after the hour to see what you guys came up with and just kind of summarize. So Emily, go ahead and take it away. Let's get our breakout rooms ready.
Here we go.
Looks like we should be good with 5.
5, great, okay, perfect.
Whoop, I already had it, so let me go ahead.
Some of my talking had some people drop off. No, that's not what I meant to do.
This should be good. Let me start moving. And feel free, Franz, if you want to help throw people in rooms. All right, so Chip, Matthew. I think this is good.
And I think let's go ahead and pause the recording too, since this isn't the most interesting thing to watch. We do have about, oh, thank you, recording back. Since we do have about 10 minutes left, I would like to regroup right now. And let's just kind of go in order of breakout rooms, probably about a minute or so each. Let's start with room number 1 and Chip. What ideas did you guys come up with in terms of experienced players?
So apologies, I couldn't get my permissions to work right to actually type into the Google Doc. But Kenneth Sims was in there, Skip Berry was in there with me, and Kenneth Atchison. And we really, a lot of our conversation revolved around experience might not be the best measure. We couldn't really come up with a good number of years. We said if we're going to use experience, probably full-time experience and in a cyber-related job role. We had some discussion about going back into the bronze, silver, gold, ranking them out that way, and really another measure we thought of breaking them out, graduate versus undergraduate. The teams that tend to do extremely well, SANS and WGU, to a lesser degree FIT, but I mean those are graduate schools, and particularly SANS and WGU, those are adults going back seeking a graduate degree because they're looking to move up into, you know, a CISO role or something within a corporation. And it's really a challenge for a 2-year or a 4-year undergrad to compete against that level. But it's, again, it's hard to tell experience-wise. We thought it might be easier to break them out by education, what program they're actually in.
Okay, graduate versus undergrad. Okay.
And high school. You could pull
In
that
high
off.
school, yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. I'm just taking some notes in your Google Doc. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Okay, did we have anybody in room number 2? Oh, yeah, John.
I think we combined 2 into a different group.
Oh, we did.
I was group 6.
6. Okay, well, since you're talking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm still trying to
Go
figure out
ahead,
who's in my
Dad.
group. Yeah, so I never got access
Okay.
to my document either, so I've got it in Word documents. So first, kind of like a question as to what happened to the old ranking of bronze, silver, gold, because it seems like we're getting back to that concept of a tiered approach to people doing that, and you know, where it, but in this case, they would all get their own leaderboard. Pamela had a really cool idea where basically there would be this, I called it the sorting hat, right? So I'm a Harry Potter fan. So called the sorting hat, where people would self-report, like, you know, how much experience do you have? Have you ever worked with Wireshark? Have you ever, you know, done all these different things? And then that would generate a score, and then shout out, you know, Gryffindor or, you know, Slytherin, and tell them which leaderboard they would be on. So that's one way. Then Ping was talking about chess.com, which I am totally unfamiliar with, but apparently if you want to go play online chess, then it also figures out your level of experience. So there might be other examples out there on, you know, how other competitions rank people. And then I'm blanking on the name of the person who came up with this, but just the point that at this, you know, the competition knows there's been enough competitions to gather data and see who keeps on winning, and you know, how using that data to try to sort out people. And to me, it keeps on going back to what happened to bronze, silver, gold. We used to like distinguish people based on their score in like, the preseason game and go from there. So I think, that was our discussion. Well, thank you, Chip.
I can shed some light on what happened to the preseason and doing bronze, silver, and gold. A couple of reasons. One is that we were, for the preseason, we were using past NCL challenges. And so what ended up happening is a lot of times, if you've got schools with a lot of institutional knowledge, they had basically the past questions and past answers. And so students from those schools could more easily get through and get to the top of the practice game and get put into gold, silver, and bronze or gold. The second, addressing your question here about, don't we have a lot of historic data that we could use to put people, to place people's skill levels? We have that at the institutional level, because we have students coming in and graduating. We don't have extensive profiles on each individual student. And so going back to the idea of like, well, okay, maybe we can have a preseason without using past challenges. If we have a completely, if we basically took what would have been in the individual game and we make that into a preseason, well, it just kind of seemed that like we were using an assessment to place people based on how they would do in another assessment. So it kind of seemed like a little bit of a circle, because by this logic, then we could just take the individual game results and then make separate leaderboards based on how people placed in individual game. Because all we're doing is just like basically just splitting instead of having like one individual game, let's just split it into a pre-game and a regular individual game. Both are measuring the same way. So it just didn't seem like it was actually bracketing people based on anything different than what the individual game is bracketing. And that's why with the individual game, what we did is change terminology. So instead of saying gold, silver, and bronze representing your skill level before going into the competition, we do gold, silver, and bronze representing your skill level based on your performance in the competition afterwards. Because effectively it's what the measurement is doing is the same. The question is, are we splitting it into two separate assessments or just keeping it in one? Happy to elaborate further. I don't know if that made sense, but that was kind of like our thought process behind it, is that like preseason didn't actually give any information which we wouldn't get already from the individual game.
Okay, so we got a couple more minutes left, and Franz, I think you're up next because I have you written down as the room leader for room 3, unless you want me to defer to Chris.
I think Chris passed that back to me.
Okay.
For room number 3, there was discussion as well about the preseason model. So that got brought up. Won't repeat that. A couple of concerns as well. For looking at fields that are counted as job experience, job title is not going to be consistent across the industry. So it's going to be very tricky being able to identify, like with that job title, is that a cyber role or not, and should it count or not? Especially when you might look at a job title, which in some company might be more or less technical than another company. And one question that we kind of posed, and I'll pose this back to the whole group, when you're looking at preseason, if we were to have like a pre-assessment and use that to put people in different skill levels, would it be fair to have a high school like freshman come in and be very talented and score well in that pre-assessment, as well as a graduate student, and have them on the same leaderboard? So should we be placing people based on their existing skills or based on their background? I think it's easier to place people based on their existing skills. And another comment that we have here, placing people based on background is going to be very difficult to do fairly.
Okay. Fair. And so let's move to the last breakout rooms. We got Matthew Cloud from room number 4. You want to let us know what you guys came up with?
Sure. Yeah. We first of all talk probably most of the time about how great the program is, and that all of our students are hooked. So that's great. Trying to solve the questions asked here. I didn't share in that group, but I serve the governor's office in Indiana, as well as a couple national consortiums where we talk about this from a work experience level, and nobody can really come up with a good solid answer on that, even after many years, right? It really, there's a lot of factors there that we cannot easily define in a few minutes. But for this purpose, what we did come to a conclusion is that we should have them self-assess what that experience level is, and maybe have 2 levels, like a novice that could be around 2 years and experienced at 5 years, right? Or maybe 4 years, but it's hard to say because we have no data, and we know there's thousands of students there, so there should be some data to help guide where that might split. The other part was that we really should separate, like we separate high school from college students, the undergrad versus graduate, as well as looking at overall. But having those 3 main levels, K-12, undergrad, and graduate at 3 different levels, so we can self-assess better as to how well the students are doing. I have, other than looking at how the students did individually, I have no way to look to really understand how they're doing nationally, except for overall. And that, with it all lumped into one, it makes no sense. Right?
It's hard, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then it doesn't really matter the field. Like I gave an example in there. I have one guy who did well, who's got 10 years of experience in the Marines, more on networking, not really in cybersecurity, but's well prepared to tackle these kind of challenges. And yet another student from Laredo that doesn't speak English well and is a graphic design major, and she did better than him. So, you know, you just don't know. I think it really is best self-assessed by the students. And we seem to come to that same conclusion.
Okay. And I almost left out the room that I was in. So sorry about that, my room. Breakout room number 5. Krista, you were help leading that one.
Yeah, we had many of the same comments that everybody else did, bracketing by peer group, so high school, undergrad, grad, sort of proposed that, 1 year at that level could then mean you should level up the next year after that. Same thing, work experience, including that as well. There was also a really interesting idea that I liked and hadn't heard about potentially in the future, including different tags for people so that you could have like local competitions that, you're the Hawaii division, and then your students could actually see how they did compared with people in their local region, or if there's then, in the championship rounds, going on to represent their different groups. So just another interesting idea.
Great. Okay, so thank you everybody for the input. What we're going to do now is kind of go through and summarize all of the input that we got looking through the Google Docs. We will then have a meeting with the NCL board and take all of your input into consideration to figure out next steps in terms of are there more, will we have more next steps? And if so, we do want to use your input as guidance. So that's the whole idea behind having these coaches calls, and the breakout rooms is really to hear from our community. And we do want to grow and have new decisions based upon your guys' input. So again, we really appreciate your input and taking the time for this call. We will have another coaches call next month and a whole new topic for our breakout room. And I will attempt to give us a little more time on the breakout rooms for next time so we can have a full conversation. We may talk about Discord, and we may add another topic into that as well. So again, thank you for your time. Franz, any closing thoughts?
Nope, just remember that registration opens on the 30th.
Yep, it's coming up. All right, thanks again, everybody, and look forward to continuing this discussion next month. Take care.